So we are back at the breakout sessions, VMworld TV, and I've got the honor of talking to Yves and Sai. I think the two people within our organization that might probably know containerization the most. So just a quick question for you guys before we get into your sessions. We went in the era of computing. We went from centralized servers to client server and then back and then edge and all robo and all that kind of stuff. And now it looks like we're doing kind of the same thing with containers, Docker containers. Where is it going to go from now? Where do we go after containers? Serverless applications, stuff like that? Is that something that's possible in there in the future?
A lot of our customers are right now just touching the surface with containers, right? Containers have been there around for about 3 to 4 years now, but they're actually catching a mass adoption now. Like pretty much all of our customers, financial, banking, retail, all customers are looking to modernize applications. So think of this as moving applications from like WebSphere, WebLogic, the traditional Java applications, to a more modern application platform like Kubernetes. A lot of traction right now. We see this a lot at VMworld now, but all of this will actually also lead eventually to functions and more modern next generation abstractions like functions as a service.
So what I'm seeing now at my customers, when I talk to customers, I'm actually seeing the Goliath applications, and I'm not going to name names, come out with containerized Docker versions. I feel, but this is my personal opinions, is that misusing containers?
We see a lot of that as well, Jordi. But now in the last 24 months, the understanding and education in the industry of how to use containers well has now gone up. So we now see customers starting to write more modern microservices apps and use containers the way it is meant to be. We see one-off cases where it's not used appropriately, but now the education industry is kind of rising up constantly. So with a lot of the work that we're doing with Pivotal Container Service, with Pivotal Cloud Foundry, microservices, true microservices are starting to catch on now.
Okay, so Yves, what do you think about the road that we've chosen? So we've had Photon Controller, either it doesn't work or it isn't the right product for the right product for the market right now. We're now going in with Kubernetes, PKS. What are your views on that?
I think PKS is the right answer and exactly what we should do in terms of what the market expects from us. It fits perfectly into both the vSphere world and the Pivotal world, and it will integrate products like NSX to give a great value to customers. So. Yeah, there was some shake-up and some decisions back and forth on what to do as VMware, but this joint approach is, from my perspective, exactly what the market expects from us and what gives the most value to our customers and fits well into VMware and Pivotal.
So we saw when OpenStack was making its debut that a lot of commercial companies, including our own, decided either to go on their own branch version or pack it in some slight way. Most of them haven't been that very successful with it. Are we now risking the same thing with PKS, or are we just basing this on the open source version and we're just going to be rock hard and rock solid?
Yeah, so PKS is based on open source projects like Kubo, which is Kubernetes on BOSH. And so there is a very big piece which is an open source core, right? And I think having an open source core but still packaging it in a way that works for the customers is what we have to do. And we also saw that in OpenStack, right? Do-it-yourself OpenStack was extremely difficult and most customers didn't succeed with it. And it's the same with do-it-yourself Kubernetes. So now's the time to actually build those distributions that make it easy to consume Kubernetes. As easy as we made it to consume OpenStack with VIO, we'll make it easy to consume Kubernetes with PKS.
So I'm from the NSBU, so I'm generally working on NSX, and one of the things that I see is trying to talk to customers that have been doing this for so long. Now I can imagine, Sai, that we're now with PKS, we're going to go into companies and say, look, we have a solution that's ready built, ready packaged for you. Are you not worried that we're going to talk to developers that have actually build your own Kubernetes on whatever platform? Is that something that you're seeing, or?
No, I think developers will see this very, very positively, Jordi. Because developers at the end of the day want to be writing applications, testing their applications, and not setting up Kubernetes clusters or upgrading them, right? So what we've had missing for some time now is really the ability for infrastructure teams to offer these more modern application platforms. So we did vCenter, so we provisioned VMs. We had the infrastructure as service stack with VRA and VIO, was great. But what developers now are really looking for are these endpoints like Cloud Foundry endpoints or Kubernetes endpoints. They're not necessarily interested in installing them or configuring them. They'd be more than happy if the infrastructure team can provide them with services. So that fits perfectly into VMware's spot, where we're really good at that, right? Where we actually kind of build industry-grade computing platforms where developers can actually focus on things that they do best.
Okay.
Now, to be clear, just as in the case of OpenStack, if somebody wants to build a do-it-yourself Kubernetes cluster, we have a solution with NSX for them too, right? So it's a philosophy of VMware to have specific solutions, also in the storage land, etc., that work with Kubernetes in general, which are independent of the packaging, which is PKS. But still, I see the most successful consumption model for customers being PKS going forward.
Okay, so one last question. So what I'm seeing at our general enterprise customers is that first we were talking virtualization, then we talked about virtual storage and virtual networking, and then we went into cloud management, the CMPs, VRA, and all that kind of stuff. Customers were comfortable with it. Now we're talking AWS cloud, my live migrations to wherever. They're understanding it, they're seeing it. Then we go a step further and talk about containers. They start to get a little bit iffy. And then we talk about Swarm and Kubernetes and Bosch. And then you suddenly get like a blank face on them. The customers that you guys are generally talking to, are you talking to the developers or the infra guys? How does that interaction work?
Oh, it's a great question. So traditionally, right, from VMware, we've always been talking to vSphere admins, right, vSphere administration teams. With NSX, we started talking to a new audience, the networking teams, sometimes the security teams. The very, very interesting thing for what we're seeing now with this whole containerization is we're starting to talk a lot more to the Linux teams, sometimes to the application teams. So in a lot of our large customers, we start seeing these new PaaS teams or containers teams, right? So they could either be coming either from Linux teams, Linux backgrounds, or from the vSphere backgrounds. So we really are doing that right now, right? In the last 18 months, we've been talking to a lot of these teams. We see a lot of our vSphere community now emerged to actually being the kind of hosting these PaaS platforms and container platforms. So it's new, a lot of buzzwords and a lot of language, but it's a natural progression for us as computing goes beyond like a private cloud to actually a container management platform.
Yves, your thoughts?
No, I think it's perfectly well outlined. We have a big mix of people we talk to, so you can't really just say it's just the application people that we talk to, because quite often they don't really have those infrastructure topics that we have to talk to them, right? So it's more a mix, and the perfect meeting for me is when I have all of them in one room and where we identify the gaps together and how NSX can solve problems they have. That's the perfect meeting for me.
Sai, thank you.
Enjoy.
Yves, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of VMworld.